What most people don't realize is that by the 1700s, elderly Europeans had already solved one of winter's hardest problems: staying warm through the night without fire, electricity, or modern insulation. This wasn't accidental comfort. It was engineered, intentional, and repeatable. The design was known simply as the enclosed winter bed, and for aging bodies with slower circulation, it was the difference between surviving winter and, well, succumbing to it. The enclosed bed was a thermal system, not furniture. The 18th century winter bed was not an open frame with blankets thrown over it. It was an enclosed structure built to trap body heat, block drafts, and regulate temperature over many hours. These beds were commonly built into walls, recessed into alcoves, or framed with wood panels on all sides except the entry. Heavy wool curtains, sliding wooden doors, or hinged panels sealed the occupant inside once settled. This enclosure reduced heat loss through convection, which is, the primary reason people feel cold at night. Modern beds, even in heated homes, expose the body to circulating air. The enclosed bed, on the other hand, eliminated airflow entirely. Seniors whose bodies produce less heat at rest benefited the most from this design. Elevated sleeping surfaces prevented cold transfer from the ground. Cold floors were a known danger in pre-industrial homes. Stone, packed earth, and brick floors pulled heat from the body all night long. The winter bed was always raised well above floor level, sometimes by several feet. The cavity beneath the bed acted as a thermal buffer, preventing ground cold from reaching the sleeper. In many homes, this space was used for storage, further reducing air circulation beneath the bed. This design principle is still used today in cold climate cabins, though few people realize it originated centuries ago. For modern application, raising a bed frame and insulating beneath it with wood, wool rugs, or even stacked fabric recreates this effect without construction. Thick, natural bedding worked as controlled insulation. Mattresses were stuffed with straw, chaff, wool flock, or feathers, depending on region and wealth. Wool was favoured for elderly sleepers because it retained warmth even when damp and regulated moisture better than feathers. Multiple layers were used, but not loosely. Bedding was tightly tucked to eliminate air gaps. Heavy woolen blankets and quilted coverlets compressed insulation around the body, reducing heat loss without overheating. Today, layering wool blankets beneath and above the sleeper, rather than relying on a single modern comforter, recreates the same thermal stability. This is especially effective for seniors experiencing night chills. Bed curtains, actually created a kind of microclimate around the sleeper. They really weren't meant to be decorative at all. Instead, they served as functional thermal barriers. Wool, linen lined with wool, or heavy felt would be hung from wooden rails surrounding the bed. Once these curtains were closed, they trapped the warm air exhaled by the sleeper and, importantly, prevented cold drafts from windows, doors, and chimneys. This, in turn, created a stable microclimate that stayed warm all night, even as indoor temperatures dropped. Elderly sleepers, in particular, benefited from this consistent temperature, which helped reduce nighttime waking and joint stiffness. Well, a modern equivalent can be achieved by using thick fabric panels, ceiling-mounted curtain tracks, or even temporary tenting structures around the bed during the winter months. One of the most misunderstood tools of the era was the bed warmer. This was a lidded metal pan filled with hot embers, slid between the sheets before bedtime, then removed. Its purpose was not to heat the sleeper directly, but to preheat the bedding and the enclosed space. For seniors, this reduced the shock of cold sheets, which could, trigger cramps or circulatory stress. By the time the sleeper entered, the enclosure was already warm and stable. Today, hot water bottles or heated stones wrapped in cloth can serve the same function without electricity. The key is preheating the enclosed space, not maintaining active heat all night. Ventilation was controlled, not eliminated. Despite being enclosed, these beds were not airtight. Small gaps or upper vents allowed minimal air exchange to prevent moisture buildup. This balance kept bedding dry while retaining heat. This detail matters. Fully sealed modern enclosures can trap condensation, leading to damp bedding and heat loss. The 18th century solution was controlled ventilation positioned above head level. When recreating this system today, leaving a small opening at the top of an enclosure, well, it maintains comfort without sacrificing warmth. Placement within the home, amplified heat retention. Winter beds were positioned against interior walls, never exterior ones. Chimneys, kitchens, and shared walls provided residual warmth. Seniors were often given the most thermally stable sleeping locations in the house. In modern homes, bedrooms are often placed along exterior walls, which, actually increases heat loss during colder months. By simply moving a bed away from windows and those chilly exterior walls, one can noticeably improve nighttime warmth and comfort. So, why did this approach work especially well for seniors? Well, as we age, our bodies tend to lose heat more quickly, generate less metabolic warmth, and honestly, we become more sensitive to temperature changes. The enclosed winter bed, addressed all three of these issues at once. It conserved precious heat, stabilized the temperature around the sleeper, and reduced the body's energy demand during sleep. This was not about luxury. No, not at all. It was, quite simply, survival engineering. So, applying this knowledge today, you really don't need to rebuild your entire home. You can, in fact, recreate this system by using layered wool bedding, raised bed frames, draft-blocking curtains, preheated bedding, and, just a bit of strategic placement within the room. None of this, I should add, requires electricity. And, importantly, all of it is proven. For those of you facing rising energy costs, unreliable power, or, extreme winter conditions, this forgotten design actually offers a tested alternative, and it's rooted in historical fact. The enclosed winter bed kept 18th century seniors warm through unheated nights, prolonged cold seasons, and honestly, rather fragile health. It managed all this quietly, efficiently, and without a hint of modern technology. That alone, I think, makes it well worth remembering. If you value this kind of practical historical knowledge, do consider subscribing to Warfield Prepper Chronicles. Give this video a like so others can find it, and share it with someone preparing for winter right now. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often solves the same problems better than we do today.